So first of all, I would want to remind those who didn't do work that I sent that I don't know what to enter in your SBA results. And these will go to ECZ. So I don't.
Sir, I'll send mine tomorrow. I've been having some problems.
Wow. If I don't have what to mark, then I'll put 0. It's as simple as that. I cannot manufacture results. And this period you are going through, you are supposed to adjust. So if they give you work, do it on time. So if you know you've not sent work, I've got nothing to mark for you and I've got nothing to enter. Mr. God has been pushing me, said that these are the only ones who want to pass. So it's up to you. You are the ones who will be writing the final exam, and those are your results. They are not mine. And today, I would want to conclude the topic we've been discussing, which is under Excel. We are going to look at some of the questions, the way ECZ brings questions. And by the way, we have 2 sessions today. After this period, I'll break off for 20 minutes, then I'll be coming back at 15, and we'll go through web development. So make sure that you come back, because next week I won't be here. Mr. Charwe will have 2 sessions as well. So after this session, come back to the same link and join again at 15, I think 15:20 there. All right. Unless there are questions before I can start. Silence means everything is okay. So today, we want to finish this topic, and I thought we look at some of the past papers, the way they bring questions, so that we can attempt them together. And we are going to consolidate where we've been lacking in terms of formulas and functions. Has any one of you communicated with Michelle? She's not here. Last time she wasn't here. And I've not seen her work. Okay. Then were you able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So the figure below shows part of the spreadsheet used to keep attendance records at Skulu Secondary School. And that is the table extracted from Excel. This was a 2016 exam paper. And they've given names of students there, learner's ID. If it were in your case, we would have put their exam numbers. Then possible attendance, actual attendance, and the percentage of attendance. And then the first question there, describe one method that can be used by grade teachers to verify learner ID. Anyone to try? If you're able to, just go ahead. So what we are being, yes, someone want to say something, go ahead. All right, so what they are asking us, describe one method that can be used by grade teachers to verify learner ID, if the learner's ID is there, how are you going to verify? How are we going to know that you were not missed out when the IDs were entered? And then also, if they are verifying a learner ID, it simply means your ID is going to be different from another candidate's ID. So yours is going to be unique. How are we going to know that your ID is the only one in this system, different from the rest? Because we know that IDs are supposed to be unique. So since this was prepared in Excel, there are many ways you can use to make sure that this learner's ID is unique and it's there. So to practically explain this, I thought of coming up with this Excel worksheet. I hope we are able to see this Excel worksheet. The information here is simply the same message from the question. So we want to see if the learner ID in this column exists and it's different from the other IDs. So what can we do for us to verify that no, the learner ID is there and it's different? One of the methods I normally recommend to students is to use the count if. It's going to count if the condition is met or the criteria is met. And to do that, I'll count from this cell. Then I'll say count if in this range, then comma, then to ask for criteria. So these two IDs, they are strings. If you recall from our previous discussion, we said when entering strings in a function, they're supposed to be in inverted commas. So I will do like that. Then I'll select one of those, that is G12, the first one, G12 R164576. I'll close the inverted commas and I'll close the bracket. So what is going to happen here? It's going to count in this region how many of these IDs exist. We want to know if there is a replication of this same ID in this column, which means we can verify that the ID is appearing maybe twice or 3 times or so. But we want to make sure that this ID is unique and it is the only one in this category. So to do that, we say count if. As long as there is if, then it's asking for a condition. And the condition is that in this column, how many IDs are equal to this one? If I do the enter key, it's saying 1. So which means from this region, if there were hundreds of them, you use count if. It's going to count how many IDs are identical to this one by using the count if function. So when we look at this question from this area, they are saying describe one method that can be used by grade teachers to verify learner ID. So if I use the if count, it's going to verify that no, this learner ID only exists once. If it's only existing once in this region, then that ID is deemed to be unique. Because if there were more than one of the same IDs, it's going to count them by the number of times that ID is existing. Before I put the answer right here, let's do this from Excel, where we'd say, let me get rid of this, possibly this ID here, I also paste it there, and I also paste it there. So if you use the if count, it's going to look at it in this way. Say equal to if count if then you say in this region, then put a comma, inverted commas. Then we want to see if there is one which is equal to this ID 576. We close the inverted commas and the brackets. Then we press the enter key. As you can see now, it has counted that they appear 3 times. So we can verify that there is a replication of this ID in this region. It's appearing more than once. As for your exam number, you alone allowed to have that exam number. There is no one else who has your identical exam number given to you. So if it's counted more than once, then we are going to have a problem because you cannot have 3 students with the same ID. Otherwise, in short, if I get rid of these 2, it should be able to show us 1 because now there is only 1. Like that, we have identified that there is only 1 instance of this ID in this Excel worksheet. So how are we going to answer now this question from the question paper, saying that describe one method. So one method you can use to describe how the teacher can verify a learner's ID, that by using the count if function, it will be able to return the number of times this ID has been entered. So like that, one, you have explained or described one method. Before I proceed, let me see, are we safe? Are we safe with my explanation or I should repeat?
Repeat. Repeat.
Repeat.
Okay, so what we are saying here from this question, the examiners are asking you to describe how you can verify the learner's ID. In your case, let's say the examination number. If I enter the examination numbers for all my students at Lake Road PTA school here, I will need to verify that there are no repetition. They are not duplicated. They are entered only once. And apart from verifying that they are entered only once, we are also going to verify that this exam number indeed exists. Because if it doesn't, the count if is not going to count it. So it can count it if it is identical to what we are looking for. And it's also going to count how many times it's going to appear there. And by that, I'm sure you would know that the exam number has been verified. So what are you going to write here is exactly what I'm trying to explain using Excel here. They're saying verify. How are we going to verify the learner's ID? So if I'm going to verify that the learner's ID is here and it's appearing once, I can use what we call the COUNTIF function, where we say COUNTIF, then it's going to count from range, this range, how many times this one is going to appear. Then select the exam number you want to verify. Let me go for the second one, which is saying G12 R164579, like that. I didn't put the inverted comma there. And then I can close. So what this function is doing, it's going to count how many times this ID number exists in there. And two, it's also going to count to check if this ID exists. If it doesn't exist, it will return 0. It will say this ID doesn't exist. If it does exist, it's going to tell us how many times it's existing there. So if I do this and I press the enter key, it has given me that this ID is there and it's existing only once. For instance, if I change, I remove possibly a 7 from there, and then I press the enter key, it will return 0. One, it has verified that the exam number is not in this category. Like that, I would be able to verify that this exam number is not there. It has never been entered. And two, it shows that it doesn't exist, not even once. So if I put a 7 there to equal this second ID, then I'm going to see that it's showing that the ID number, this one, is appearing in this category once. So like that, I would have verified that this child's exam number exists and it's there only once. So if I have to answer now the question that we are posed of, describe one method that can be used by grade teachers to verify learner ID. Let me find space at the bottom. I would say by using COUNTIF, what am I typing? COUNTIF function, comma, it will be able to return the number of times the ID is occurring in the spreadsheet. So like this will be acceptable. They will give you a mark. But this explanation I've put here is after you've understood what I'm trying to explain using Excel. So for you to understand this statement I've put there is after you understand what COUNTIF is capable of doing. It is capable of counting the number of times an entity occurs. And secondly, it's also able to check if this entity really occurs in a spreadsheet. If it occurs, COUNTIF will capture that, and then we'll verify that it exists. And then how many times it occurs, COUNTIF is able to tell us. And like that, we would have verified how many, that this ID is there according to this question. Any questions? Precious, are you safe?
Yes, sir.
What do you say? Are you okay with this explanation?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's very good. So that's one method you can use to describe one method that can be used by grade teachers to verify learner ID. How can you verify a learner ID that it's there, it's correct, and how many times it's appearing there? We can use count if. And it's not the way I've put up my English in that text. It's entirely up to you how you're going to explain. But if you explain using similar to this, close to this, you'll be given a mark. But that's not the only way you can use to identify or verify a learner ID. Let me take you back to my spreadsheet. So the other way that you can use is by looking at, if I want to verify this, I can just go to sort and find there. Then I'll click and say, am I on the correct one? I meant find and select, find there. I would say find. What am I looking for? You search for that. I put it there. Then I say find all. So you will be able to see that Excel is going to tell you that it does exist and it's appearing once. One cells found. So it is there. If it wasn't there, it's not going to retain anything. So apart from using the if, the count if, we can use the search and find, and it will be able to retain how many times that type of ID is occurring in a spreadsheet. So you can also say something like this. Where is my word? So the other way you can say that by using search and find feature, it will be able to retain the number of times, obviously, your ID is occurring in a document. So any one of these two they are all acceptable and they'll give you your full marks. I hope this explanation these two explanations are clear and they'll be able to fit in this question. And that was the meaning of that question. And I know at the marking center, very few made it. Most of them, they failed to explain. You know, I'm not limiting to my two explanations. If any one of you has another explanation, how you are going to describe, let's hear your views. Anyone else? How else can you describe such a question? Well, that's fine. Let's move on to the next question. Let me go to the questions. I'm looking for the questions. I keep on selecting the wrong one. Excel data types. It's this one. Okay. So the next one, write the formula that would be used in cell E3 to calculate the percentage attendance here. The percentage attendance. So I'll leave it up to you. Who's going to help us with this question? Percentage attendance. Can someone explain this mathematically? They say possible attendance, they are 66. Actual attendance, they are 60. So what is the percentage of attendance there? How can you explain this using mathematical understanding? Because it's 60 out of 66 have attended. So what is that supposed to mean? Yes, Musonda. Malangisha.
To find the percentage of attendance, we're going to write the actual over the possible attendance times 100.
Let me try what our friend is saying. I'm following what you are telling me. What is going to be on top, Malangisha?
We're going to write equals to 60 over 66
over 66
times 100.
And what's the result? Anyone with a calculator there?
It's 90.90909091.
Like that. So now, your issue is interpreting this into Excel. How are we going to type this in Excel? That is our question. So there are two ways of looking at that one. In Excel, what we are going to do, we're going to do something like this. Where is the Excel? So in this box, you're going to say equal to, then we are going to divide. You said we start with 60, not so? Not so, Malangisha?
Yes.
This one, divide by this one, we close the brackets, then we multiply it by 100, and it gives us that result. So what they are testing us, are we able to come up with a formula? Take it mathematically, how you can do it in math. Then after putting a mathematical formula, convert that arithmetic to the way Excel can understand, and you know how Excel accepts these values. If you miss that point, then it will never happen. Then this number is too much. We can reduce it to 2 decimal places by using this. Like, because I used this, then, oh no, I'm increasing. We're supposed to reduce it like that. Then this will be acceptable. And then your answer is going to be equal to G2 over C2 multiplied by 100. What you should avoid using in Excel, you should avoid using numbers as they are given. You are supposed to use the cell name, not numbers like 66 and 60. These are not allowed. You will need to use that is C what and D3, C3 and D3. Then come up with a formula and put it there. So here you are going to say equal to, then you say C3 divided by D3 divided by C3, then in brackets, then you multiply it by 100. Like that, you will be able to get these two questions. I mean, there are only 2 marks we have taken long to explain this, but there are only two marks they're talking about here. My interest is that you become adapted to creating formulas in Excel. Like I said previously, you won't be with a computer in the exam room, but you'll be expected to write answers like we are doing here. So I was going to write something like equal to, in brackets, we say D3 divided by C3. I close the bracket, then I multiply it with a by 100. So this
D2,
is
sir.
Hello?
D2.
D2.
Yeah. And C2.
D2 and C2. How did I miss that one? Let me see, have a look at this again. Okay, so it's the D3 and C3. I was right. Have you seen? It's D3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you write it like this, you get it right. I hope the first question we are safe. Then we can jump to the next question there. And there are a lot of things they've put up there. And this is the topic, the part of the topic I was about to introduce last time when we finished if function. I wanted to start some if. And I want to do some if because we are going to discuss it together using this question. Yeah, this name, Ngwangwa Finance Company keeps records of its creditors in a spreadsheet. An extract of one of the records kept is shown below. Use this extract to answer the question that followed. So Bankongole, it's this group, and they congolate all this. That's what is happening there. Now, if the total credit for AKA, so why is this is AKA in A9 and A7 and A4. They're saying that the total credit for this person AKA entered at E2, they entered it here, was calculated by the function equal to sum if. Then they say A2 all the way to A9. Then AKA B2 to B9. Write the function that can be entered at E3. So what can be entered for Charlie? So for us to understand what they're talking about, first let's look at this function and how it was entered. Let me take you back to my Excel. I think I typed question 2 there. So what is expected, first of all, is we are going to use sum if. When we say sum if, we have names there, and some names are appearing more than once, but they are the same people who got the money, that is the amounts we are seeing here. So like if we want to add the totals for AKA, what are we going to do using Excel? That is the question. And that's the reason they used sum if. And to do that, we say equal to sum if. So they say sum if. Now range. They're saying that in this range from there to there, we put a comma. What are we looking for here? We want from this range to calculate the total for AKA. So as usual, this is a string in inverted commas. Then we say AKA inverted commas, and we put a comma there. So from this range, we are looking for AKA. So they're saying that sum if it's AKA, So all the AKA will be taken care of. And then sum range, what will be added is what is going to be here, because this is where the amounts are appearing. So sum if in this region there is AKA, then against AKA, what are the where is he existing? Yes, when Gondwe?
So how come you're ignoring A7?
I'm ignoring which one?
A7. Isn't it under AKA as well?
Which one? G7?
No, A7 from the previous thingy.
Your network is cutting. When? Can you try again?
Hello?
Anyone able to get what when is saying?
So
Yes, yes.
I was saying, how come you ignored the A7 from the previous sheet?
A7. The A7 is here.
Where?
It's right
A2.
here. A7. Are you able to see it? Or when I was mentioning the names, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Possibly I just skipped it. But, making things right, it's supposed to be there. All right? Okay. So you're saying that from this range, we are going to sum only if it is AKA. And how are we going to sum? We are going to get the values corresponding to AKA there. So like this, we're going to add 70 plus 50 plus 20, because these were gotten by AKA. And that is the meaning of this. Sum if in this range A2 to A9, A2 to A9, there is AKA. Then you get the sum range from this column. And if we've done that, we close the brackets and we enter the enter key there. And we have 140, because if we can calculate just by looking, AKA 70 plus 50, that's 120, plus 20, that's 140. So this is how this function works. And when you look at this question in the question paper, they wrote down 140 there. But behind that 140, that's where it came from. It came from that this same formula they are showing here. Now, the question is, write the function that can be entered at E3. Now at E3, we want for Charlie. So there is nothing that can make you fail this question when they've shown you the way with the first one there. So for Charlie, you just look at where Charlie is. We are looking from the same column there. So you'd say equal to sum if. Then it's the same column, the same A2 to A9. After doing that, you put the comma. We are going to change not AKA now, we are going to put Charlie. And the sum range is the same. Practically, it's going to be done like this. Where Charlie is, we are going to put equal sign, then we say sum if, then you open the brackets, you say from this range, comma, what is the criteria to be met? We are going to say Charlie. And we close, then comma, this sum range, and then we close the bracket like that. If we enter, it will give us 60. Obviously, when you see where Charlie there is only appearing once, so you got 60. So the formula which is here is the formula they would want you to write in the answer sheet during the final exam. So you are going to do it like this. On that question, you just say, let me just Copy. Where am I? I've lost the screen. Data types, yeah. So there, you are simply going to type that sum if A2 to A9, comma, then the criteria to be met, and then the sum range. If you type something like this, then they will be able to give you your 2 marks without questions. And that is what they expected us to have done in this. What's happening? Sorry. Okay. Oh no. Okay. So that's what is required of you to do here. And if they ask you to do the same about this one, you will do the same, following the same procedure. I hope that clears your questions about this. Then the next question, describe another way that can be used to add up the total amount for each creditor. If you don't want to use sum if, how else are you going to sum them up? I mean, you now use, because when you see sum if, it's a function. You are using a function. When we are using count if, it's a function. If we are not using a function, you're going to use a formula. So what you're going to do is that you're going to identify all the cells where AKA is, where is AKA, all the corresponding AKA amounts, and add them. That's your explanation. So on AKA, you're going to say, you're going to select all the sum range corresponding to the creditor and add them. What I'm saying, like AKA is appearing in B4, please, if I forget, remind me, B4, B7, and B9. B4, B7, and B9. So manually, you're going to say, you're going to write something like this one, B4, plus what was the next one? What was the next one? The next one was where there is AKA, the B7 and B9. B7 plus B9. Each is going to give you the same results as to what they got for AKA. But this is not an explanation. This is the formula that I would want you to explain. So you would say you will manually identify the sum range of a creditor, one Congole of a creditor, and add those cells like that. So you manually identify them. After identifying, like I was identifying using this method, after identifying them, then you add those cells. So if we went to Excel to do it manually, we'll do something similar or close to this. For AKA, I'll just say equal to, that is B4 plus, then there is B7 plus B9, and I will press the enter key. As you can see, it has given me the same result. So what is important here? Be critical, try to verify and look into the question paper. What can I do apart from this? And like this, you would have explained it without using a function. And hence, you will be given a result for a question of this nature. Are we clear? Are we clear, Penwell?
Yes.
Okay. The class is supposed to end at 15 hours, right? Supposed to, it's 14:57. I don't know what you suggest when. Can I overshoot so that we just end it all? And we have a free day. When can I overshoot maybe by 10 to 15 minutes, then we just end the class for today?
Yes, sir.
So that we don't come back here. And the girls have got Z-World to watch. Okay, let's go to...
Right, sir.
Wow, let's go to the next question there now. Give one validation method that can be used to restrict the amount of credit allowed to each customer. Now, Abankongole, someone who is just borrowing without looking at how much they're going to get paid, but how are you going to restrict that? So if you are the one giving them the money, how are you going to restrict? So this one is not going to be taught in class. It requires your initiative, critical thinking. So if I was the one giving out the money, I would say that the maximum possible you can get is 140. Then what if someone is going beyond 140? The system should be able to tell me something. So let's think together critically. I'll help you think in this line. In this line, we've got Monga there. Let's assume you can borrow up to 100 kwacha, not 140. So if someone is going over 140, I would just use the if function to check. If it's more than 100 kwacha there, you would say danger. If not, you say give the person the money. The if function we were looking at previously can be of use to us today. So you can say equal to if this box, I forgot the brackets, and we normally do this in the exam. Please don't forget, if this box is greater than possibly 100, comma, then in inverted commas, I would say deny. Deny. Else would say permit. Permit. This is simply my thinking. It cannot be a general thought for all of us. So what I'm saying that if this person comes again to get the money, the system should say deny. You would say that, no, I can't give you because you've already gotten more than what you're supposed to get. But if I replicate to the next cell, there it would say permit because this person got 60. It's not yet 100 kwacha. What am I trying to say here? I can use the if function to show if the person has reached the maximum they can borrow. And if they've reached that, the system should be able to deny. And if they've not, it should be able to permit. So in your explanation on a question like this one, give one validation check. It's now validating. When you validate, it means you restrict people from just doing whatever they want to do. Like the validation checks we used in system development life cycle, like the range check, format check, those, they just restrict what people can enter into the database. And here I can use now the if function to restrict someone from getting more than they should. So give one validation check, I would say, by using the if function to return a deny if they've reached the maximum they can borrow, or the permit if they've not yet reached the maximum they can borrow. Penwell, my explanation, is it okay? Is it clear?
Yes, it is.
If you've not understood it, let me see your hand. Okay, so it simply means we are saying, there are so many hands there. Let me check. Okay, Chireshe Kalonde, Zanji, and Imbinda. Okay, so it means I'll need to explain again. Okay, you can lower your hands. Let me go through it again. You can lower your hands. Let me explain again what they are talking about. So they are saying, give one validation method that can be used to restrict the amount of credit allowed to each customer. So what they are saying is, people cannot just be getting money surpassing how much they get paid. You know, you get 1,000 kwacha, but you are just borrowing all the way to 50,000 kwacha. How are you going to pay back? Now we assume, because this is the company, as you can see, it's a company. So people who works in this company can borrow, but the accountant should not just be giving them money anyhow. He should restrict how much they can borrow, because even the government has given us a validation check. You cannot borrow more than 45% of your basic. In any company or to any bank where you go with your pay slip, they will look at your pay slip, how much you've borrowed. And if it goes beyond 45% of your basic, they're not going to give you the money. So equally, if you are the accountant for this company, you should put a validation check, something to remind you that you don't give this person money because he has borrowed too much. He cannot pay back. Some things like that. Just like you are not working. Then you go on getting money which you cannot pay back, thinking my mom will give me. What if she's not going to give you to pay back? You get a nice dress from your friend that, okay, I'll pay back, and yet you don't work. Even a friend giving you that dress should be wary. Where is this person going to get money? Because the next time you'll be going to the police, and the police will ask, what surety did this person give you for you to give this person so much money? So that's simply initiative. And let's look at this question again. So I'm going to give a validation check. Like I have a validation check, I gave you work, and I've entered in SBA system for Mr. Mgode. Mr. Mgode called me, Mr. Piri was saying that some results were not entered. I told him that they are not there. What do you mean they are not there? You know, I gave them work, they didn't do. Now they want me to manufacture the result. So there is a validation point there, which I gave. If you're not going to do it, I'm sorry, I'll enter 0. If you're going to submit today, that's fine, because the portal is not yet closed for SBA. I don't know if it's closing next week, because Mr. Mgode has been pushing me. If I don't see what to mark, already out of 30, you have 0. Don't worry, you write your theory, because at least I've entered a 0 there, unless I say that this person was absent. What it is, it's like you got a 0, and that's what has been entered. I don't want to emphasize a lot over your future. In grade 12, you're supposed to know that now I'm about to get out of my parents' house. And that's the truth. Then you cannot be speaking tenor in the kitchen when you are 25 in your parents' home. It's not allowed. And it's allowed, but it's not normal. I left my parents' home when I was 21. So make sure that you take care of your future. That's how important the exercise I gave you is. If we are going to go through it together, maybe after everyone has submitted, and those who have submitted, do not share your screenshots with your friends, because I'll be able to see. I have what I printed, and if you give it to your friends, then that is such is a crime against exam rules. Okay, I don't know what is drawing on my screen. I'm also lost. Those zigzag lines, they're gone now. All right. So let me put the validation check. So validation check, it restricts what people can do. As you can see, we even use the same word restrict. So if it's validation check from software development lifecycle, the simple meaning is that they want to restrict what user can enter into the system. So even here, otherwise, if you're not going to restrict, people will just be borrowing what they're not going to pay. And in the end, the company is going to lose. So I used this assumption of coming up with a thought like mine here, that let me, for instance, think that the maximum one can borrow is 100 kwacha. So if this person comes back, is he allowed or denied to be given extra money? And there must be a reason. So in there, I said, I'll use the if function. If, then the brackets are open, that if this person borrowed greater than 100 kwacha, comma, then this person must not be given. Say, deny such a person, equally the spelling was something else, deny, or else you are going to permit. If you is permitted, it means you can give that person more money. You can give them what they want, but it should be limited to 100 kwacha. So if I do the enter key, this one has overborrowed already. So I won't be able to give this person. So based on this explanation I'm putting here, this explanation, let me even copy this formula so that it can help me explain in Microsoft Word. So in Microsoft Word now, they say give one validation method. So the validation method you can use, you say that by using if function to deny those who have borrowed more than the limit, and to allow those who have not borrowed up to the limit. By using if function, if function to deny those who have over borrowed and permitting those who haven't, like that. So the if function is going to allow if someone has not reached the limit. If it is true that you have overborrowed, the system will deny. If it's not true, then it will permit you to borrow some more, or to borrow for the first time. That is the meaning of this explanation. Now, from your end point of view, how else can you answer such questions? A question like this. This is just my thought. When I teach Excel, I expect you to be creative because you are sons and daughters of the Creator who created you to be creative. So you need to be so very creative. And to help you with thinking, I will put this video up on YouTube, those who would want to refer to it. Then the document you are seeing, I'll put it in the WhatsApp group in case you need it. Then lastly, describe how you can create a graph for creditor subtotals. Creditor subtotals. So I'm thinking these here are the totals. Then these are subtotals because they are not yet, which one are subtotals? Anyway, I'm confused. Describe how you can create a graph for creditor subtotals. Okay, which means what is going to be here are subtotals, and then the overall is going to be the totals. Or we can actually use this same one, they are subtotals. Then if we add all these, it's going to be the overall total. So how can you create a graph like this? In explanation, because theoretically it's easy. What you can do, you're going to select creditors there. You hold down the control button on the keyboard, then you select this other range, then you go on insert, and then you select the graph. Don't know which graph you would go for. Let me go for this one. And like that, I would have created the graph. Now, what I've said, you put it in explanation. So when you're explaining, you would say that you select the column for creditors and then hold down the control button, then you select the column for amount, click on insert, then select the chart. That is the explanation they want you to put on paper. So if you don't know how to create a graph, you're going to be able to explain. And especially this time, you have to be very critical in thinking. This is the reason why I put videos on YouTube, because you are away from school, but the examiners expect you to pass. So if anything, make sure that you understand that. So this last point, I won't write it down, just make sure that you'll be able to explain exactly what I've just explained. Select the column for creditors, also hold down the control button and select the other column. Then click on Insert tab, then select the chart that you want to insert. Like that, you would have answered everything that is required of you. So before I close this video, Zoom show, all those on call, any questions before I go? Next week we are not meeting. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you.